Your analytical methods are outdated, Garrett. We need fresh perspectives. My name is Garrett Sullivan. I'm 49 years old. I'd been a senior data analyst at North Point Financial in Atlanta for 14 years. Preston Matthews had just told me my work was shit. He had no idea he'd just picked a fight with the wrong guy. I built everything at North Point from scratch. When I started in 2009, we had 50 employees and were losing money. By 2023, we had 800 employees in total, $1 billion in assets. My customer systems helped increase revenue by 340% over 8 years. I survived 2 downturns, 3 CEOs, and countless new initiatives that came and went. Preston Matthews joined us 8 months before that conversation. Harvard MBA. Worked at McKinsey for 6 years. Talked about digital transformation constantly. The board loved him. 3 months later, he got promoted to VP of Analytics, my new boss. If you like stories about betrayal in the corporate world and how real expertise can beat greed and arrogance, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel right now. Every day brings completely new stories, each one more intense than the last. Let me tell you how this happened. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was planned, executed, and almost worked. I joined North Point in March 2009, right after the financial crisis. The company was losing clients and barely staying alive. They hired me because I was cheap, $55,000 a year when everyone else wanted $80,000. What they didn't know was that I'd spent 5 years at Credit Suisse building risk models before the crisis hit. I knew what I was doing. My first job was figuring out why we were losing customers. The previous analyst tracked basic stuff: age, income, account balance, standard crap every financial firm does. I went deeper. I looked at transaction patterns, seasonal behaviors, when clients called us. Within 6 months, I found 3 different customer types nobody else noticed. Conservative retirees who wanted steady dividends. Aggressive millennials chasing growth stocks. Middle-aged professionals planning for their kids' college. Each group had different needs, but we'd been treating them all the same. I built prediction systems with 47 different variables: how often people traded, seasonal patterns when they called customer service. My models hit 94, 3% accuracy in predicting which customers would leave. Industry standard was 78%. When a conservative retiree started making risky trades, my system flagged them. When a growth client hadn't made moves in 3 months, we'd reach out with new opportunities. Results were immediate. Customer retention increased 23% in the first year. Revenue per client jumped 18%. Client satisfaction scores increased 31% because we finally gave people what they wanted. By 2012, other firms were trying to poach me. Goldman Sachs offered $120,000 plus bonuses. Merrill Lynch wanted to double my salary. Fidelity offered me a VP position at $180,000 plus stock options. I turned them all down. North Point gave me a chance when I needed it. I believed in loyalty. That loyalty cost me about $800,000 over the years, but I thought it was worth it. I spent 11 years improving the system. Every client interaction, every market change got fed into my models. I trained 15 different analysts on my tools. I wrote 200 pages explaining every algorithm, every data source. When new hires joined, they spent their first month learning my systems. My team grew to 5 people by 2020. Marcus Williams, 28, specialized in machine learning. I taught him everything and he called me the professor. Sarah Chen, our data visualization expert who could turn complex analysis into presentations. Board members understood. Tom Rodriguez and Jennifer Park, both mid-level analysts handling daily reports. Amy Foster, fresh out of Georgia Tech with a master's in data science. I trained them all personally. Sarah credited me with her promotion. Marcus got offers from Microsoft and Google, but stayed because he said he was learning more from me. Tom and Jennifer came to me for career advice. Amy reminded me of my daughter Emma. The company grew around my work. We opened offices in Charlotte, Nashville, and Jacksonville. We bought 2 smaller firms and put their client data into my models. By 2020, we managed $8 billion. The board said my analytics platform drove 60% of our growth. Then Preston Matthews showed up. I met Preston in June 2022. Tall guy, probably 6'2", expensive suits that cost more than I made in a month. Talked fast, used business school buzzwords. He'd been hired as senior director, reporting to our CTO. His job was to modernize our data infrastructure. On his first day, Preston scheduled a meeting with me. He wanted to understand our systems. I spent 3 hours walking him through everything: the customer models, the prediction algorithms, the data pipelines from 12 different sources. He took notes and asked smart questions. "This is impressive work," he said, "but I think we can take it to the next level. Have you considered machine learning frameworks? What about real-time behavioral analytics?" I explained I'd built machine learning into the system years earlier. The real-time analytics he wanted would cost millions and deliver tiny improvements. We were already hitting 94% accuracy. Chasing the extra 6% wasn't worth it. Preston nodded, but I could see he wasn't convinced. "Well, I'm excited to work with someone who really knows this business." Over the next month, Preston scheduled regular meetings. He wanted to understand not just the technical stuff, but the business logic behind every decision. I showed him how we identified at-risk customers, calculated lifetime value, determined which products to recommend. I even shared trade secrets not documented anywhere, like why wealthy retirees in Buckhead behave differently from wealthy retirees in Marietta, even with identical financial profiles. It came down to social networks that couldn't be captured in traditional data. Preston picked things up fast. He got how my systems worked better than most people. I thought he was smart, even if his ideas were bullshit. We worked late on Fridays, going through complex customer scenarios. I taught him stuff that took me years to figure out, like how market volatility affected different customer segments in weird ways. Preston acted grateful. "Garrett, this is incredible," he'd say. "You've built something that would take most companies 5 years and $10 million to develop." He bought coffee for our sessions, remembered my wife's chemo schedule, asked about Emma's college applications. I thought Preston was okay. I was wrong. In August 2022, Preston got promoted to VP of Analytics. The board announced it at our quarterly meeting. "Preston brings fresh perspective and deep expertise," the CEO said. "He'll lead our next phase of innovation." Preston became my boss. In our first one-on-one, he outlined his vision. "Garrett, you've built something incredible," he said, "but we need to think bigger. I want to expand our capabilities, implement real-time engines, and integrate external data sources for competitive advantages." He talked about partnerships with social media companies to analyze customer sentiment, credit monitoring services to track spending patterns, geographic data providers for regional investment preferences. It sounded impressive, but I knew the challenges would be huge. Those integrations would take 18 months and cost at least $3 million, I told him. And we'd need regulatory approval for most external data sources. The compliance paperwork alone would take 6 months. "That's why we need to start now," Preston replied. "I want you to document all our current capabilities so we can identify integration points." The changes started small. Preston asked me to document standard procedures, reasonable for any new manager. Then he wanted access to my personal tools for backup purposes. Could I provide database documentation? "What about access keys? We need business continuity," he'd explain. I did it because I trusted him. That trust cost me everything. I spent September and October creating complete documentation of every system, every data source, every process we used. Preston requested access to everything, so I provided it. Database schemas, API endpoints, security protocols, backup procedures, the complete technical setup of our entire operation. Preston also brought in an external consultant named Sterling Knox. Sterling was supposedly a data architecture specialist who would help design the new integrated platform. Around Preston's age, maybe late 30s, same polished confidence and expensive clothes. Sterling wasn't just any consultant. He'd worked at Deloitte for 8 years before starting his own firm. His LinkedIn showed work with 12 major financial firms. He knew exactly which data points were valuable for customer acquisition. During site visits, Sterling asked seemingly innocent questions. How do you segment high net worth clients? What triggers your retention algorithms? How detailed is your behavioral data? He was spying disguised as consulting. Sterling spent lots of time in closed-door meetings with Preston. When I asked what they discussed, Preston said they were developing strategic roadmaps and didn't want to get bogged down in technical details. Seemed reasonable, but something felt off. In November, Preston's behavior toward me changed. He stopped including me in strategic meetings. He questioned my recommendations in front of other team members. During weekly one-on-ones, he talked about knowledge transfer and cross-training initiatives. "We can't have all our knowledge concentrated in one person," he said. "What happens if you get hit by a bus? We need to distribute your expertise across the team." I understood the logic, but the way he said it felt different, like he was planning for my absence. When Preston started excluding me from meetings, my team noticed. "What's going on with you and Preston?" Marcus asked privately. "He's asking questions about your work methods like he's building a case." Sarah pulled me aside after a department meeting. "Garrett, Preston asked me to document all the visualization techniques you taught me. He said it was for training materials, but it felt like he was trying to steal your knowledge." I couldn't tell them what I suspected. Not yet. Then came the performance improvement plan. In December 2022, Preston scheduled a formal review with Chloe Brennan from HR. Chloe had been our HR director for 6 years. I'd helped her through her divorce in 2019, covering her workload when she needed time for custody hearings. She'd personally approved my family medical leave when Rachel was diagnosed with breast cancer. That's what made her betrayal especially cruel. She knew exactly how vulnerable Rachel's condition made us financially. She'd calculated our desperation. They presented me with a document outlining development opportunities and skill enhancement objectives. According to the plan, my methods were becoming outdated. I needed to learn new technologies and adapt to modern practices. The industry is moving toward automated machine learning and artificial intelligence, Preston explained. Your rule-based models were cutting edge 10 years ago, but they're not scalable for future growth. This was bullshit, and I knew it. My models were beating every benchmark in the industry. Our customer retention rates were 15% higher than industry average. Our prediction accuracy was better than anything our competitors achieved. But Preston had convinced HR I was falling behind. The performance plan required me to complete online training in advanced analytics techniques and demonstrate proficiency in modern data science tools. I had 6 months to show improvement or face further corrective action. I signed the document because I had no choice. My wife Rachel was in the middle of chemo treatments for breast cancer. Her medical bills were running $4,000 a month even with insurance. Copays for oncologist visits were $300 each. Her prescription medications cost $800 monthly. We'd burned through most of our savings. Our daughter Emma was a senior in high school, already accepted to Georgia Tech with partial scholarship. We'd paid the $500 enrollment deposit and committed to $18,000 in tuition for her first year. She was planning to study computer science, following in her father's footsteps. I couldn't afford to lose my job, and Preston knew it. But I also couldn't ignore what was happening to our systems. Part of my job involved running quarterly data audits, reviews of who accessed what information and when. I'd built monitoring tools years earlier to track unusual access patterns. These tools had helped us identify 2 previous cases of employees downloading customer information for personal use. The February 2023 audit showed something alarming. Large customer data sets were being downloaded during off hours, weekend mornings, early weekdays, late nights. The access logs showed Preston's credentials, but the timing was strange. Who works at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, or 4 a.m. on Saturday? I checked who accessed our files for 18 months. It took 3 hours to search our massive database. I found Preston was downloading customer data at weird times. Normal business hours, 12 database queries per day. Off hours, 47 queries per session, all targeting high-value customer segments. Over 6 months, someone had systematically exported 180,000 customer records. Complete profiles including names, addresses, phone numbers, emails, account balances, investment preferences, risk tolerance scores, transaction histories. This wasn't random browsing. This was organized theft. The exported data represented our most valuable customers, high net worth individuals with significant assets. Average account balance in the exported dataset was $340,000. These were exactly the clients our competitors would want to target. I cross-referenced the export dates with our competitors' marketing activities. Pinnacle Financial, our biggest rival in Atlanta, had launched highly targeted advertising campaigns starting September 2022. Their ads appeared on the same websites our customers visited, at the same times our customers were most active online, with messaging that directly addressed our customers' specific investment concerns. It was like they had access to our internal data. Because they did. I spent a week digging into Sterling Knox's background. His LinkedIn showed he was a data architecture consultant working with leading financial services firms. But deeper search revealed something else. Sterling Knox was also listed as VP of Marketing for Pinnacle Financial Solutions. Preston wasn't just stealing our customer data. He was selling it directly to our biggest competitor. But that wasn't the only scheme they were running. While digging through financial records, I discovered a second operation involving our vendor management system. Preston had created fake consulting contracts with Sterling's previous company, billing us $45,000 monthly for strategic advisory services that never occurred. Over 8 months, they'd stolen an additional $360,000 through fake invoicing. The fake consulting fees were smaller amounts, designed to fly under our radar. But combined with the data sales, Preston was running multiple theft operations. I needed to understand the money trail. Using financial tools I developed for fraud detection, I started tracking Preston's personal finances. Public records showed he'd opened offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands 8 months earlier, right when he joined Northpoint. The timing was too convenient. I submitted information requests to our banking partners, claiming I was investigating potential money laundering. The responses confirmed my suspicions. Wire transfers totaling $2 to $8 million had flowed from Pinnacle Financial to Preston's offshore accounts over 6 months. They were paying him roughly $15,000 per 1,000 customer records. Georgia's data privacy laws required us to report any customer data breach within 72 hours. Preston and Chloe had violated state regulations by concealing the theft for 6 months. I found email evidence showing they'd discussed whether to self-report the breach to avoid federal prosecution. Preston's response? Reporting would destroy our careers. Better to fix this quietly and hope nobody notices. They'd turned a civil violation into a federal crime by choosing cover-up over compliance. But I needed more than financial evidence. I needed to prove the data theft. I accessed our email server backups, another system I'd built that Preston didn't understand. Most people think deleted emails disappear forever, but our backup system archived everything for 7 years to comply with financial regulations. I found email conversations between Preston and Chloe dating back to October 2022. The subject lines were innocent, Q4 planning and resource optimization, but the content was damning. Preston to Chloe, October 15th. Garrett's knowledge of our monitoring systems is a problem. He built most of the audit tools himself. We need to speed up the timeline. Chloe to Preston, October 18th. Agreed. I'll document performance issues and build a case for termination. How much time do you need? Preston to Chloe, October 22nd, 6 months maximum. The client data exports need to be completed before anyone notices the patterns. They'd been planning my removal for months, timing it to coincide with their data theft operation. They needed me gone before I could trace their activities. One email from Chloe particularly pissed me off. Garrett's wife is undergoing cancer treatment, so he's unlikely to push back aggressively on performance issues. The medical bills will keep him compliant. They were using my wife's illness to control me while they stole from the company that employed us both. That email pissed me off. They were using my wife's cancer to control me. I knew I had to stop them. There was more. Pinnacle wasn't just buying our customer data, they were using it to poach our best employees. 3 of our top performers had been recruited by Pinnacle in the past 6 months, all approached with offers that exactly matched their salary expectations and career goals. Information they could only have obtained from our internal HR files. Sterling had been downloading personnel records along with customer data, giving Pinnacle complete intelligence on our operations, strategies, and human resources. I had enough evidence to destroy them, but I wanted to catch them in the act. I contacted Agent Maria Torres at the FBI's cybercrime unit in Atlanta. I'd worked with federal investigators before. Part of my job involved identifying suspicious account activities that might indicate money laundering or fraud. Agent Torres knew my reputation and took my call immediately. "Garrett, what can I do for you?" she asked. "I need to report corporate espionage and data theft," I said. "I have evidence of systematic customer data theft totaling $2.8 million. I spent 2 hours walking Agent Torres through the evidence. The financial records, the email exchanges, the data export logs, Sterling Knox's dual identity. She listened carefully and asked detailed questions about our security protocols and data handling procedures. "This is solid evidence," she said finally, "but I'd like to catch them in an active data transfer. Can you help us set up a controlled operation?" I had an idea. I created a fake customer database containing our highest value prospects, fictional clients with assets ranging from $500,000 to $5 million. I made the profiles realistic, complete with detailed investment histories, risk assessments, and contact information. But I embedded tracking code in every file. The tracking code used hidden techniques, digital watermarks in the metadata of each customer record. When the files were opened outside our network, the code would ping a server I controlled, logging the IP address, MAC address, and system specs of the accessing device. Evidence trail that would lead directly back to the thieves. I saved the fake database to a USB drive and labeled it Q1 2023 High Value Prospects, Confidential. Then I accidentally left it in the conference room after a meeting with Preston. I watched through our security cameras as Preston pocketed the USB drive 20 minutes after the meeting ended. 3 days later, my tracking code activated. Someone at Pinnacle Financial had accessed the fake database using Sterling Knox's IP address. They'd not only viewed the files, but imported them into their customer relationship management system. My fake prospects were already being loaded into Pinnacle's sales pipeline. Agent Torres had everything she needed for federal warrants. But Preston made one final mistake that sealed his fate. The day before the FBI raids, Preston called me into his office for what he said would be my final performance review. "Garrett, I've made a decision about your future here," he said. "Your performance hasn't improved sufficiently over the past 6 months. We're going to have to let you go." He slid a termination letter across his desk. "Your last day will be Friday. Chloe will walk you through the separation paperwork." I picked up the letter and read it. "This says I'm being terminated for inadequate technical skills and failure to adapt to modern analytics practices." "That's correct," Preston said. "Your methods are outdated. We need people who can work with cutting-edge technologies." I looked him in the eye. "Preston, in 14 years here, I've built systems that generated over $200 million in additional revenue. My customer retention models are still the best in the industry. What exactly am I failing to adapt to?" "The industry is changing, Garrett. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, real-time analytics, these are the future. Your rule-based models are legacy technology." I stood up. "I see. And I suppose Sterling Knox represents this modern approach?" Preston's expression changed. "Sterling is helping us design next-generation analytics platforms. Is that what you call selling our customer data to Pinnacle Financial?" Preston looked nervous as hell. "I don't know what you're talking about." 180,000 customer records, Preston. 8 million in wire transfers to your Cayman Islands accounts. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Preston was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You can't prove shit." "Watch me, asshole." "Tomorrow morning, the FBI will prove it." FBI raids hit both North Point and Pinnacle offices simultaneously at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, March 15, 2023. I watched from the parking lot as federal agents arrested Preston at his desk. They found the stolen customer data on his personal laptop, detailed financial records of the payments from Pinnacle, and email evidence of the conspiracy with Chloe and Sterling. My analytics team was devastated. Marcus looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "I can't believe Preston was stealing from us," he said. I actually liked the guy. Sarah was furious. "He asked me so many questions about your work. I thought he was trying to learn. He was planning to replace you with stolen knowledge." Chloe Brennan was arrested in HR while trying to delete personnel files. She'd shredded my performance improvement documents and was working on Preston's hiring records when the agents found her. Sterling Knox was captured at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport trying to catch an 11:30 a.m. flight to Grand Cayman. His carry-on bag contained backup drives with copies of our customer database and $47,000 in cash. When they brought Preston out in handcuffs, he saw me standing by my car. "Garrett," he called out, "you don't understand the pressure I was under." The board expected impossible growth numbers. I was trying to find competitive advantages. "I understand pressure," I said. "I've been under pressure my whole career. I don't understand betrayal." That was the last time I spoke to Preston Matthews. The legal proceedings took 8 months. Preston pleaded guilty to corporate espionage, computer fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy charges. He received 8 years in federal prison and was ordered to pay $2 million in restitution to North Point and affected customers. Chloe Brennan pleaded guilty to conspiracy and obstruction of justice. She got 4 years in prison and a lifetime ban from working in human resources. Sterling Knox fought the charges but was convicted on all counts. He received 6 years for corporate espionage and an additional 2 years for attempting to flee the country. The scandal destroyed North Point's reputation. We faced $15 million in regulatory fines from the SEC, Federal Trade Commission, and Georgia Department of Banking. Our customers filed a class action lawsuit that cost the company $45 million to settle. The board fired the entire executive team and brought in new leadership from outside the industry. They offered me Preston's old job as VP of Analytics, plus a 40% salary increase and stock options. "Garrett, you saved this company," the new CEO told me. "We want you to rebuild the analytics department from the ground up." But I was done with corporate politics. Agent Torres had recommended me for a consulting position with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. I now help investigate cases of corporate data theft, money laundering, and financial fraud. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm using the same analytical skills Preston tried to make obsolete to catch criminals exactly like him. I also started my own company, Sullivan Data Security. We help businesses protect their customer information, detect internal threats, and recover from data breaches. Our first client was a small credit union in Marietta that had been hacked by former employees. Word spread quickly through the financial services community, and within 6 months we had 12 clients across the Southeast. Rachel's cancer treatment was successful. She finished chemo in May 2023 and has been in remission for 10 months now. The stress of my job situation had made her treatment harder, but the stability of self-employment has been good for both of us. She's back to her old self, gardening, volunteering at Emma's old high school, planning our 25th anniversary trip to Ireland. Emma graduated from Georgia Tech with a computer science degree and now works for a cybersecurity firm in Austin. She specializes in financial crime investigation, following in her father's footsteps. "Dad, you taught me that data tells a story," she said. "I want to make sure it tells the truth." Marcus, Sarah, Tom, Jennifer, and Amy all left North Point within 6 months of the scandal. Marcus got that job at Google he'd been offered years earlier. Sarah started her own data visualization company. Tom and Jennifer joined a fintech startup in Nashville. Amy came to work for me at Sullivan Data Security. She's become an excellent forensic analyst. 2 years after Preston's arrest, Sullivan Data Security has grown to 15 employees and generates $4 million in annual revenue. We've consulted on 31 federal cases involving corporate data theft, helping to secure convictions in 27 of them. Every time I testify in court about data security breaches, I think about Preston's arrogance and how he underestimated the quiet guy in the corner. We've recovered $47 million in stolen assets for our clients. More importantly, we've prevented dozens of data breaches by identifying vulnerabilities before criminals could exploit them. The business world is full of people like Preston Matthews. They have impressive degrees from prestigious schools. They use fancy vocabulary and present themselves as visionary leaders. They talk about innovation and disruption while understanding nothing about the systems that actually make companies successful. But customer data represents real money. In Preston's case, he was collecting $15,000 for every 1,000 records he stole. When you betray the person who built the systems protecting that data, You better make sure they don't know how to use those same systems against you. Preston thought my 14 years of experience wasn't worth respecting. He saw me as an obstacle to his get-rich-quick scheme rather than the expert who could expose him. He made a $8 million mistake when he decided to steal from the company I'd helped build. Some people think experience is just time served in corporate cubicles. They're wrong. Experience is wisdom earned through trust broken and rebuilt stronger. Preston learned that lesson in federal prison. I learned it by turning his betrayal into the foundation of my own success. The next time someone tells you that experience is outdated, remember this story. Real expertise can't be faked with buzzwords or bought with an MBA. And when loyalty is met with betrayal, sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button and leave a comment letting me know what you think. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and ring the notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.